Hello, everybody, and welcome back to a special episode of Safari Mack, where I'm your guide and host, helping you make connections to the wild. Well, ladies and gentlemen, today is actually a very special episode because today, for those who have been with me the longest, you may recall an earlier side series that I did at the beginning of, or at least in the early days of Safari Mack. You may remember Safari Mack's conservation conversation, right? Well, if not, let me give you a little recap. So, a while back, when we were first touring Africa with Africa's Big Five, after our rhino episode, I introduced to you the series as a way to give special recognition of special conservation acts, projects, and ongoing efforts supported by communities and agencies from all over the world. So some of these episodes have included the creating embryos thanks to frozen sex cells of the northern white rhino, a severely critically endangered species, updates from Kuno National Park of India of their ongoing cheetah reintroduction program, and finally we saw a number of rare critically endangered Spix macaws be returned to the wild in Brazil's northern region, where the species had been long absent for well over 20 years. So, with that said, I'm happy to announce that for Conservation Conversation, we're back. So, for this episode, today we're going to look at ongoing projects that occurred last year in the state of Georgia, as well as head over to Paris, France, along the Seine River, and see what's going on there. But as always, if you're new to my channel, hit that like and subscribe button. Check out my Facebook page for more content on conservation. And finally, if you have a question or if there's an animal that you want me to do in the future on my main series of Safari Mack, all you got to do is just leave me an email, which you'll always find the link to down in my description below. But if you're ready, I'm ready. Let's get started. So for starters, we're going to head over to the States. Georgia, more specifically the coastal region, which actually played host to where I was born. So, not the coast, but at least along the coast. So, Georgia has last year saw some pretty great successes going on. For starters, the Brunswick Harbor Bird Island played host to a number of different species of shorebirds that were able to have a successful breeding season. These species include the royal tern, the laughing gull, the black skimmer, the gull-billed tern, and finally brown pelicans. All these species were able to have a pretty great successful breeding season, and hopefully this year they'll be able to do it all over again. In other related bird news, 13 red knots, which are a pretty long distance migrant, were tagged by ornithologists to study their migration behaviors as well as see the corridors that they're going to, so as a way to keep the species safe and work out different ways to prevent human intervention. So they were tracked from their breeding grounds here in the southeastern, and then they were tracked going all the way back up to their home, summer home of near the Arctic regions. Finally, the Georgia Sea Turtle Cooperative managed to count around 2,490 loggerhead sea turtle nests. Now, that's a big deal, although unfortunately they did fall short of their goal of hoping to reach 2,800 nests. But either way, whether it's low or high, a high number of sea turtle nests is always welcome and is always more encouraging because, as we all know, sadly, sea turtles, all species at least, are considered to be endangered and need all the help that they can get to boost their numbers once more. Finally, let's head over to Paris, France, and hang out along the beautiful and historic Seine River, where I would like to introduce to you this marine biologist in training, Bill Francois, who has been documenting as many different species of fish that he catches along the Seine River. Now, I know it may not sound like the biggest deal, but trust me, any news of conservation is always big. Here's my explanation. So, since the 1970s, at least during the 1970s, this historic river which has been part of the heart and soul of Paris, France, had been heavily polluted. Like, just so bad that it was actually estimated only 3 species of fish were found along the river. So, from the 1970s all the way till now, thanks to over 50 years of dedicated research, conservation, and cooperation with Parisian governments as well as fishing agencies, I am happy to report that Bill Francois has actually counted more than 40 different species of fish returning to the river. And it's not just fish. These also include crustaceans, jellyfish, shrimp, and other marine wildlife swimming along the historic Seine River. So this is proof, ladies and gentlemen, that when we all come together, not just everyday citizens, not just government, when we all come together and join forces, we can make a great difference. Of course, always remember, even you can make a big difference. Doesn't matter what. If you want to change the world, go out and figure out what to do, because you will find your way. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm afraid that's all the time for this month's special conservation conversation episode. So be sure to join me next time, which will be March 30th. Be sure to write that in your calendar. March 30th will be our very next conservation conversation news episode. So until then, though, I'm Safari Mack, and I'll see you all out there.